Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this Saturday. You're listening to Ready, Set, Sold. I'm your host, Bryan Vogt. And what we left you with the last segment is what should you be expecting from your agent as far as negotiations go? Now, I have to be honest with you. Some of this should be upfront before you sign on the dotted line, before you are electronic signatures, which also happens too on listings now. Either way, hopefully you've had a conversation, and it's a simple question. I put it in the book. What is your negotiating style? How do you negotiate? Now, if the agent tells you they don't really have one, that's not a good thing. I think most people and most sellers know negotiation is pretty big on the checklist of what you're hiring a realtor for. Number two, depending on what they tell you, here's some insight of maybe what you could possibly be looking for down the road. Now, one of the things that you might want to stay away from is the person who says that whatever it takes, I will just press it down and crush these people, and we will get exactly every dime that you want, every penny and every nickel, and I don't care what it takes. That sounds good. That really sounds good. That might sound even good to you as a seller. I will tell you from past experience, those type of agents that use that technique usually lose more deals than they make. And I'm not exaggerating. What you're really looking for is a win-win situation. That's what most sellers want. That's what most buyers want. Now, win-win could be very simply that you've put your house on the market for a certain price, and the buyer agrees with you. You get full price offer. It's a win-win. Buyers and sellers both agree. Got a great house, got top dollar pricing, you got a deal. So that's when we talk about win-win, because if you don't have a win-win, remember there's two sides to this coin. And if your agent is, again, raising Cain, saying it's got to be this, got to be that, and got to be this way, too many times we've seen those agents take over or hijack negotiations. One particular situation, these people that had to sell their home, there was a situation they just needed to get out. It was very important. It was a $5,000 difference. It was well within the top dollar range, and even they agreed with it. I think the house was in O'Fallon. I think it was listed for $210,000. The offer came in at $200,000. The agent jumped in because the seller says, "Man, we got to go. This is good. This will work." And the agent jumped in and said, "You can't do that. You just can't do that. You have to negotiate." And said, "You have to negotiate and make it 205. Make it 205." And the sellers were nervous and said, "You sure?" "Oh, absolutely." Came back at 205. Buyers walked. Next time they got an offer, 3 months later. We don't know when the next offer is going to be in. And most sellers know that you want to take every offer on its merits and try to make them work. Where you have that agent that wants to take over those negotiations, be careful. Be very, very careful. So when you hear that strong suit, things like that can happen. People lose deals that way. Also, sometimes those agents, and this is the truth, they will want you to take offers that maybe aren't so good because they are what we call numbers agents. They base everything on numbers, and part of their marketing strategy is how fast they're selling houses. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. There's not that many of them, but there's a few of them out there that are more worried about getting you closer to the price of asking price, not so much for you, but that their numbers will be good for marketing to other people, and they can brag on the percentage of how close they get to the sale. Or they can brag about how fast the closing date is. So they'd be able to close the house quicker. So in that situation, maybe the deal isn't that great, but they'll sacrifice your money to get them a quicker closing date and keep their numbers in order, and they can keep on marketing that way. Crazy as it sounds, it's true. Also, if they don't have a negotiating style, that's a concern, because that's usually going to be when the offer comes in, the seller says, "What should I do?" And the agent says, "I don't know. I don't know. What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "It's your house." "Well, can you give me some direction?" "Well, I don't know." After a few I don't knows, that can be a very frustrating thing for your seller, okay? That's not exactly what you hired that person to do. Or you can have the other situation. The offer comes in and it's Panic City. The agent's like, you got to take this deal. You have to take it. What are you doing? Oh my God, if you don't take this deal, life as we know is going to end. And oh my God, sign on the dotted line. Let's get this thing taken care of. And let's go. That's not really the approach you're looking for either. The last approach maybe is the best approach. It's the approach that most top agents use and what you should be looking for. As I said before, is a win-win situation. Let's talk about the situation. What's going on. Understanding that in any deal, the buyer, and sometimes the seller, but the buyer can walk away. They put an offer on. We had this just happen not too long ago. A house went on the market the first day. Buyer offered top dollar. Seller wanted more. That's fine. They countered back. The buyer walked. It was 30 days before they got another offer that they accepted. So it doesn't happen very often, but you as a seller need to know that it can happen. So when you're putting that counter offer, always know if you're okay with that, that's fine. But again, your agent should be informational. Are they seeing things, for example, $200,000, an offer comes at $190,000. Many times a buyer is trying to split the difference. That's very common. Buyers and sellers split the difference quite often. And that could be $195,000 then. So it just depends on what you're looking for. If you're in the top price range, the top dollar range, where you're at with that. So many factors. How long has your house been on the market? First offer in 3 months. You and your agent might be talking about this a lot more serious than the offer that comes in the first 3 days. It doesn't mean it doesn't have the same consequences, but again, the situation changes. And I told you at the start of this program, it's situational. There's so many other factors that go into it, and your agent has to be aware of that and has to have a conversation with you and to help guide you, help consult with you, give you that information that you can make a decision. Because ultimately, and I think sellers know this, and buyers too on the other side, this is your house. This affects you. This has the biggest impact on you, and you want to make sure that you've gotten the information you need to make the best decisions possible. And again, we've talked about before about having that top dollar range. And once you have that, that's a good sign. If you hit that top dollar range, you know you've hit top dollar. If you want to improve it, that's up to you. That becomes the circumstances dictate that. Hey, I've got more information than you can imagine in this book, not just about negotiations, about other things, about selling your home. Go right now, go to readysetsold.org, get your free copy. It'll be mailed directly to your doorstep, no strings, nothing. If you're 12 months out, if you're 24 months out, if you're next month out. Either way, get the book, readysetsold.org, .com. Hey, we're going to be talking about the big tip next segment.